Okay, I'm just starting step 5 of my Keepsake box, and I have all the pieces cut to length. I have the reliefs routed, and I have my dados on the inside. So I'm just going to give them an initial sanding, especially the inside faces with 120 grit, and then I'm going to hand sand them to 220 after that. Now when I'm sanding, I really want to make sure not to round off any edges or ends. I just want to sand the faces, and again, especially the inside face. I did finish with the palm sander, but now I'm going to hand sand them. I just find no matter how much you try, it's best to finish with hand sanding in terms of not leaving sanding marks. And now the next thing I want to do is I want to dry fit these together to make sure I'm happy with my miters, and then I want to figure out how big I need my bottom to be. So that looks good. Now the bottom is going to fit into these grooves. So the best way to do it to me is to measure inside of there, and then just take off a little bit because you don't want them to be too tight. So if I measure inside this dado, from where it stops on the end of the miters, out. I should get the width and length of my bottom. And before I go cut my piece of the bottom, I really want to make sure that I have a nice flat edge to work with and that it's square. If it's not flat and square, make sure it is before you go table saw and miter saw it to size. Now when I was measuring the length and the width of my bottom, I wanted to take off a little bit of length and a little bit of width just so it didn't hold my box apart. I'm going to cut the length first just so I don't waste any lumber with this big piece. And now I can table saw it to width. And I still like to keep the grain as the length and across the grain as the width. I'm going to give my bottom a really quick sand. I like to just taper the edges so it fits in nice to the dados. And it's really hard to sand once the box is assembled, so I'll just make it as pretty as I would like it to be. Now I'm going to dry fit my box together, making sure that the bottom fits into all the dados and it doesn't hold the corners apart, being a little bit too big. And at this point I like to get my band clamp set up so that when I'm ready to clamp it together, it's set to size. And now I can get it nice and tight and make sure that everything fits just the way I want it. Also, if you've never used a band clamp, it's a good time to figure out how it works. You want to make sure your corners are perfectly aligned because they can slide and shift just a little bit. And I'm really happy with that, so I think I'm ready to glue it together. I'm going to use the band clamp to glue it together. And so I'm ready with my glue and my wet cloth. The only thing I want to do here when I glue it together is I want to make sure only to get glue on the miters, but I don't want it to squeeze out on the inside because it's really hard to clean up on the inside. So I'll be really careful with the amount of glue I put in there. And I'm not going to glue in my bottom, I'm just going to let it sit in there without being glued in. And there we are, I have it glued together. I'm going to let this dry till tomorrow, and now's a good time to start. I can skip ahead a few steps to start working on my lid while this dries, and then I'll come back and work on this some more. I made sure the tops were right flush and the corners were good, and I'm really happy I put the glue kind of to the outside of the miters and not too much glue, so I don't have any squeeze out on the inside that's going to leave glue marks that I don't want. So, that's that.